Now, since the start of the Israel-Gaza war, international journalists have been prohibited by the Israeli government from reporting inside Gaza. The BBC, in association with Agence France-Presse, the Associated Press and Reuters, has launched a short film calling for that to change so that international journalists can share the burden with Palestinian reporters on the ground. Well, in a moment, we'll be speaking to the CEO of BBC News and Current Affairs, Deborah Turness. But first, let's take a look at the film.
The Israeli government will not allow international reporters into Gaza to do their work and to document freely what they see. International journalists must now be allowed into Gaza to share the burden with Palestinian reporters there, so we can all bring the facts to the world.
Well, we are joined by the BBC CEO of News and Current Affairs, Deborah Turness. It gives you goosebumps hearing David Dimbleby's voice there, of course, a veteran BBC journalist. It's not the first time that the BBC is calling for this, though.
No, it's not. But thank you for recognising the power of the film, because for 2 years we have been calling for access to report from Gaza alongside other news agencies and news organisations from right around the world. But here, as we approach the second anniversary of the atrocities of October the 7th and almost 2 years since the start of this terrible war, we wanted to do something that would reach a wider audience and have even greater impact.
And it's important to stress that this is to allow international journalists into Gaza so that they can share the burden of what Palestinian reporters are going through.
Yes, that's right. We rely on Palestinian reporters, journalists, photographers, camera crews inside Gaza for everything that we gather there now, and we are immensely grateful to them, and we really recognise the work they do and their sacrifice. Over 200 journalists have been killed in this conflict so far. And this is about us saying, if we can get in, we can share that burden, because it is catastrophically terrible to say the numbers of journalists inside Gaza are diminishing because they are being killed.
Yeah, it's a really poignant note. It comes, of course, the UK has just recently announced that it is recognising Palestinian statehood. Has that had anything to do with your decision to release this film now?
No, not at all. I think in making this film and in asking David Dimbleby if he would take part, and I'm so grateful personally to him that he did, and he said yes, we wanted to really state the reason why journalists, international journalists, need to be allowed into Gaza. And that's really about reminding everybody that journalism is often called the first draft of history. And that's what this film is trying to say. It's saying whether you're talking about Ukraine, where we do report from, whether it's back to Rwanda or back to the Vietnam War, the fact that journalists are on the ground, the fact that we are witnessing history, the fact that we are bringing that information and those images to the world means that history can understand what has happened. And if there aren't enough journalists in there doing the witnessing, or if the ones that are there are being killed, we must rail against that, and we must state our case for why we need to be let in.
And you've done this in association with other news organisations.
Yes, that was really important. So we've worked with Reuters, Agence France-Presse and Associated Press. Those are the world's 3 biggest news agencies, plus BBC News, the world's biggest and most trusted news provider. We're proud to be the most trusted, and we strive every day to earn that trust. And it was really important, I think, that we all stood up and said this together. The film was actually launched and premiered in New York last night at an event at the Committee to Protect Journalists HQ in New York. And it's to coincide, that event was to coincide with the UN General Assembly, obviously, where the world's leaders, as we have seen, are assembled right there in New York.
What kind of response have you had?
I have to be honest, an overwhelming response. I've been quite surprised at the level of interest that we have come out and done this, and the number of people that have come to me in the last sort of 12 hours overnight to say, my goodness, this was so needed. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for stepping up. Well, I think the most important thing to say here is we're doing it because of our gratitude to the Palestinian journalists who do this every single day, and we're doing it because we must be let in to share their burden. I want people to really, truly understand that part of it.
Yes, critical to just remember those Palestinian reporters on the ground there. Deborah Turner, CEO of BBC News and Current Affairs, thank you very much for speaking to us here on the BBC News channel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.